begs gorilla for help. What happened next left scientists speechless. Deep in the heart of an African wildlife sanctuary, where the morning mist dances between ancient trees and the air carries whispers of untold stories, Ranger Jerome had walked the same dusty trails for over a decade. But on this particular Tuesday morning, something felt different. The usual symphony of chattering monkeys and singing birds had been replaced by an eerie silence that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Jerome paused near the southern boundary, his weathered hands adjusting the radio on his belt. That's when he saw him, Titan, a massive silverback gorilla who'd been rescued as an orphan years ago and had grown into the gentle giant who watched over this section of the sanctuary. But Titan wasn't displaying his usual calm demeanor. Instead, he was pacing in tight, agitated circles, his dark eyes locked onto Jerome with an intensity that spoke louder than any roar. The gorilla let out a series of urgent grunts, unlike anything Jerome had heard before. Then, without warning, Titan turned and disappeared into the thick brush, but not before looking back as if to say, "Follow me." Every instinct Jerome had developed over years of working with these magnificent creatures told him to listen. What Jerome discovered next would haunt him forever and restore his faith in the natural world all at once. There, trapped in a rusted metal snare that had bitten deep into flesh and bone, was a magnificent male lion. His golden mane was matted with dirt and blood, his breathing shallow and labored. The poacher's trap had been doing its deadly work for what looked like days. But here's where the story takes a turn that defies everything we think we know about the animal kingdom. Titan, this powerful gorilla, who should have seen this lion as a natural enemy, approached with something that can only be described as tenderness. The lion, despite his pain and desperation, didn't snarl or show aggression. Instead, he looked directly at Titan with eyes that seemed to recognize something deeper than fear. Jerome immediately radioed for backup, his voice cracking as he described the impossible scene unfolding before him. "We've got a situation here that y'all ain't gonna believe," he whispered into the radio. "Bring everything, the medical kit, bolt cutters, and maybe some tissues, because what I'm seeing right now is about to make grown folks cry." While the rescue team scrambled to respond, Titan did something that brought Jerome to his knees. The silverback sat down next to the dying lion and began making soft, comforting sounds. Not the chest-beating dominance display you'd expect, but gentle rumbles that seemed to say, "I'm here. You're not alone." And incredibly, the lion's labored breathing began to steady. When the veterinary team arrived, they worked frantically to free the lion from the trap that had nearly severed his leg. Every second counted, and one wrong move could mean permanent disability or death. Through it all, Titan maintained his vigil, backing away just enough to let the humans work, but never leaving completely. As the team carefully transported the sedated lion back to the sanctuary's medical facility, something remarkable happened. Titan followed them on foot through the forest, appearing and disappearing between the trees like a guardian spirit, making sure his new friend made it to safety. The lion, who they named Cairo, was placed in a recovery enclosure where he could heal under careful supervision. But Titan wasn't having any of this separation. He set up camp just outside the fence, maintaining a round-the-clock watch that left everyone speechless. When Cairo finally awakened from sedation, confused and in pain, the first thing he did was look for Titan, and there he was, sitting patiently just beyond the mesh. Days passed, and something beautiful began to unfold. Every morning, Titan would arrive before sunrise and take his position by the fence. Cairo, despite his injuries, would limp over to the same spot. They would sit there together, separated by wire but connected by something much stronger, a bond that transcended every rule of nature anyone had ever learned. Jerome couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story, so he dug into the sanctuary's old records. What he found made everything click into place like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. 6 years earlier, a young lion cub had been temporarily housed near the juvenile enclosure where Titan had been recovering. The footage was grainy, but there it was, a playful interaction between a curious gorilla and an equally curious lion cub, pressing paws and hands against the fence that separated them. They had been friends before. Cairo hadn't wandered into Titan's territory by accident. He had remembered. In his moment of desperate need, he had somehow found his way back to the one creature who had shown him kindness when he was just a vulnerable cub. But their story was far from over. On the 10th day of Cairo's recovery, everything changed in an instant. The sanctuary's alarm system pierced the morning calm as rangers discovered poacher tracks near the southern gate. These weren't just any poachers. They were armed and dangerous, the same type of criminals who had set the trap that nearly killed Cairo. The poachers raised their weapons, but they were no match for what came next. From the tree line, Titan's entire troop emerged, massive, furious, and united in protecting their family. The poachers ran like the cowards they were, abandoning their weapons and disappearing into the wilderness where they belonged. As the dust settled, Jerome witnessed something that would stay with him forever. Titan approached Cairo's enclosure and pressed his massive forehead against the fence. Cairo, still healing but filled with gratitude, did the same. Two kings, separated by steel and evolution, united by something the human world had almost forgotten: unconditional loyalty. The decision was made to create a shared habitat where both animals could live freely while remaining under the sanctuary's protection. The day they opened the gate between enclosures, Cairo didn't rush out. He walked with quiet dignity toward Titan. And when they met in the middle of their new shared territory, Cairo gently brushed his head against Titan's shoulder. It wasn't dominance or submission. It was pure gratitude between friends. Today, visitors to the sanctuary can witness something that scientists say shouldn't be possible. Titan and Cairo share their territory peacefully, sometimes walking together, sometimes resting in companionable silence under the African sun. They've proven that friendship doesn't recognize species, that loyalty knows no boundaries, and that sometimes the most unlikely bonds can teach us the most important lessons about compassion. The poachers who tried to destroy their story, they were arrested weeks later, their illegal operations shut down permanently, justice served, friendship preserved, and hope restored. This story reminds us that, in a world that often feels divided, there's still magic to be found in unexpected places. Sometimes it takes a gorilla and a lion to show us what true friendship looks like. If this story touched your heart and restored your faith in the power of unlikely friendships, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove love and loyalty exist in the most unexpected places. Share this with someone who needs to remember that miracles still happen every day in our amazing world.